Hey, this is Bryn, and today we are going to be talking about the Fyre Festival, or what we should maybe call it the Fyre Dumpster, because it's the festival that didn't happen twice. I have another video coming out very shortly, so make sure to subscribe down below because we're going to go into a lot more detail from an events perspective about why this festival was never going to happen. In this video though, we're going to be reacting to a very, very popular YouTuber, Coffeezilla, on his side channel. It's basically where he talks about this entire topic, and he's more on the crypto side of things and exposing fraudsters, and he does some really amazing journalism and really the type of journalism that's really not available in mainstream media. So he's got a very different approach to things, and his channel's usually about crypto and financing. So it's going to be interesting to see how he approaches this particular video. This is the first time I've watched it. I have not watched it before. Big fan of Coffeezilla, so I'm interested to see what he has to say, and I'm going to be reacting to it. So without further ado, let's get into the video and let's have a look.
I interviewed Billy Mc Farland about Fyre Fest 2, an event I have tickets to and recently got postponed or canceled depending on who you believe.
Okay, why did you buy tickets? First of all, if you bought tickets to this festival after knowing that it was a fraudster that was putting it on, I think that's your own stupid fault. I think he bought the tickets just for a lol and just to see what would happen. I actually don't know if he bought them realistically, because if you follow his channel, I kind of get the sense he bought them just so he could have something to say about it, and be able to rip them apart, saying that he was actually one who had festival tickets. I think he did it for the lols, in short.
In this video, I will confront Billy with accusations from people who worked on Fyre Fest 2 saying that, no, the whole thing's canceled. This thing is not happening. And Billy says that is not true. This is just a postponement, and eventually this will happen. For my part, I was encouraged that the media is reporting, Billy's also reporting, that refunds are being given out to ticket holders. So I got no problem with that. That's great news. I think that if you buy Fyre Fest 2 tickets, I got free tickets, right? So if you buy Fyre Fest tickets and you're not a journalist, documentarian, anthropologist, or someone like that, I think you're making a mistake. I'll just let my personal opinion on that be known. But I wanted to give Billy a chance to explain his reasoning, give his whole side of the story. I think we gave him a platform for that. Also to answer recent accusations, explain what happened with these canceled events where Mexico said in multiple occasions they had never heard of Fyre Fest 2. Billy says that's not true. Some documents were shared related to that. And yeah, enjoy the interview. Billy Mc Farland, creator of Fyre Fest 1, Fyre Fest 2. Let me start, because the context of this conversation is Fyre Fest 2 just got postponed, I think. What is the story here? Is it happening? Am I going? I have ticket. You sent me a message.
I think you bought the hat in the summer of 23 or 24?
I think it was 23, 2 years ago.
Okay, so yes, you got free tickets from that hat purchase. So that is real, and you have those tickets. It's good to be here. I truly want to say thank you. And I think over the past 24 hours, I've been approached by, I think, most of the major news networks, and you were the only one who agreed to not cut the interview and to show the interview in full. So
of course.
I thought that was the only fair way to do it.
Yeah, dude. No, I'm happy to show the full interview because I think there is a lot to get to. So walk us back. Mm-hmm. Because I think we have all the time in the world, so let's just do the whole thing. You get through Fyre Fest 1, everything that happens with that. What makes you launch Fyre Fest 2? This is actually a question brought to me by a fan of yours, Moist Critical. He says, I'd love to get his thought process on why he refuses to do anything that's not an attempt at spectacle.
Yeah, this is going to be really interesting because I know of Moist Critical's channel. I've watched a lot of his stuff, and yeah, this is gonna be
obsessed with being the facilitator. This is his words of fiction's events for money. But take the harshness out of that aside. You do love a good spectacle. You're leaving Fyre Fest 1. The question is, why Fyre Fest 2?
Yeah, great question. I'd like to start by saying that there is no way to over exaggerate the mistakes that were made from Fyre Festival 1. They were terrible. There were bad decisions. There were immoral decisions, silly decisions, and the mistakes there were incredible. And
That's to that's to put it lightly. Like, these are catastrophic mistakes that, to be honest, it could have led to someone dying. We are at the level of, Fyre Festival, even though it was bad, it wasn't Woodstock 99 bad. Like Woodstock 99, you had rapes, you had sexual assaults, you had assaults beyond full-scale rioting. It was a full-scale riot where there was lots of hospitalizations, so that's the top level. Yours just come underneath that. And the catastrophic mistakes it's just ignorance. It's plain ignorance.
I certainly deserved everything that came of it. I deserved the prison time, deserved the civil penalties, deserved the, loss of trust in relationships. And that was, all well deserved. And I deserved it. And I know everybody watching is like, of course that should happen, but getting out of jail is really hard. And, I think that's why recidivism is really high across.
Not if you play Monopoly, mate. You go past go and you get out of your jail free card when you pick up that chance card. That's how you get out of jail.
All different kinds of crime. It's when you take someone out of their family, out of their support system, out of the professional world, and you're behind and you're kind of like stuck in this, living coffin for a number of years. And it's tough to kind of get back to society. And I was just so desperate to not only pay people back financially, but to prove to a lot of my early, whether it was investors or employees or partners, that I wasn't this asshole who was just trying to, do things wrong. And I truly want to make that up. And I want to pay back the trust. And it took me a while after jail to figure out what that meant. I've tried everything. I literally did a karate combat fight where I fought in the pit to try to pay people back, and it did. I've done marketing campaigns. I've done smaller fire events in New York City that all went really well. And ultimately, we were approached by one of the largest festival companies in 2023, and they gave us a term sheet to essentially buy half of the Fyre brand. And that would put some immediate money back to restitution, but it would also allow the vision of Fyre to be executed by professionals. And we felt like that was the best path to, one, do what I always wanted to do and dreamed of doing, but two, also paying people back by putting, Fyre into the hands of a big company. And, right. Once again, this is back in 2023 and we're 2 years into everything.
So this was such a monumentous mistake, this festival, that I don't think that he'll ever live that down, and I don't think he'll ever get the trust back. You would have to launch like several festivals or hold the festival several times before you start to earn that trust back among fans, news outlets, the general population, and even just within the industry as well. Like as a supplier, I would be very skeptical going in and signing agreements with this person, whether it's for AV, catering, venue site, anything really, with the fact that he is a convicted fraudster. I don't know how you crawl that back after coming out of prison within a year.
Yeah, thanks for answering that. A quick question, we don't have to go too far down this road, but how much do you owe in restitution?
Approximately $26 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
Shit, that is a lot of money to try and crawl back. Yeah, he definitely doesn't have that money.
How does that even work? So when you get income, is part of it garnished? How does that work?
Yeah, it's a pretty fair process. Ironically, I think for all the flaws with the system, like the restitution process is straightforward. It's a percentage of your income, right? And that varies based on what the income level is. Mm-hmm. And then for something like Fyre Festival, a portion of any revenue generated in addition to the personal restitution requirements would apply. So, the Fyre Festival company would be responsible for paying. And then, if I made $100, and I'd have to pay my percentage off of that as well.
Got it. Thank you for answering that. When we talk about a big...
Dude, if you have that much money that you owe, you're going to be paying that off for a long time unless you're a multi-millionaire and like tens of years. Holy cow. That is so much money.
Festival company that, approached you. Was this Lost Nights?
No, this is before I met Lost Nights. It's one of the major players. They're a public company, and ultimately, we signed a term sheet with them. It went to their board of directors, and their board of directors, rejected the deal. So this is back in 2023, and
now
good.
Moving on in the
business
last,
move.
I don't know, call it 12 months. You've been with Lost Nights. who my understanding is they sort of are the event side, you're the marketing side. Is that a fair characterization?
Correct. So after that first deal didn't happen, it really gave us like the confidence to start scouring the world for great festivals, great locations, and great production companies, and ended up with a really strong team. And ultimately, like, my goal here is not to put anybody else in the line of fire. Like, it all comes down on me. But we have a great team who's working on Fyre, and we have a great team who's building Fyre. And ultimately, just couldn't feel safe given what happened. And we'll get into all the craziness with Playa del Carmen, and we just couldn't risk the safety to try to make it happen there.
Problem with this festival is it advertises, so much, and then they realize, oh, wait, we actually can't do that because it's physically impossible to do that. That's a problem that, festivals can sometimes run into, is if you don't do your site visits and if you don't understand the basic principles of putting a major event together, such as this, and you come from a marketing background with no production background or no production advisors, and you just flout figures and you say, well, this festival is going to be 1,500 people and it's going to be amazing. We're going to have the best influencers. We're going to have the best artists. We're going to have best this. We have VIP here, all these experiences. And you're flouting all this clout, essentially, and washy-washy. It's like that scene from Wolf of Wall Street.
It's a fake. Fugazi, fugazi, it's a wazi, it's a woozy, it's a fairy dust. It doesn't exist. It's never landed. It is no matter. It's not on the elemental chart. It's not fucking real. Right? All right.
And we're in this situation where then a production company will come in and try and actually run the festival or run the event and be like, hang on, we haven't got permits, we haven't got permission, we need to hire the space still, and this is how much it's going to cost. Have you put these figures in? And then people lose their minds. Now, this doesn't happen often. In fact, it's a rarity that this happens. It more happens on a smaller scale when we talk about more on the experiential and the corporate side of the events industry, where we think about, we have creatives or marketing people and they might not come from an events background, and they have these massive grand ideas of how to do things and what they want to do. And then events professionals like myself or people who work in production or technical suppliers come in and they say, have you thought about this? Because this needs to happen before this happens. This needs to happen. Have you got these permits? This is illegal. Or it could be a design or an idea where it's like, this defies the rules of gravity. Like, when you drop a stone and that falls to the ground, we can't float stuff magically in the air with it not attached to anything. I've personally had people come into an event space before and ask me to turn down the sun. Legitimately a real story where someone has asked me to turn down the sun. To put bluntly, some people, when they come from different backgrounds, they don't have either common sense or don't have the thought process to think about these things ahead of time.
Right. So just to confirm, the postponement announcement is real. Everybody's agreed to postpone Fyre 2 because it wasn't going to work out with the venues.
As of this video, it has actually been completely cancelled, and they're now selling the Fyre Festival brand.
Can we get into that? Let's get into, okay, you're getting ready. Why do you decide to launch when you do? And what did you think going in? Because basically, there's this constant sort of back and forth with, we've got this event, guys. And then some officials there say, well, I've never heard of these guys. And then, they go to Playa del Carmen. Oh, we've got this event thing. And then there's another kind of blow up with the government. What's happening behind the scenes?
I think for people watching, you have no idea how crazy it is trying to do business and trying to do an event.
Tell us.
Yeah,
this is your chance.
It's wild.
Tell us.
It's wild. And we're sharing the receipts, and I'll send you a bunch of documents that I'm not comfortable posting publicly, but hopefully you can speak to and kind of keep the safety of the people involved.
When you deal with governments, councils, and anyone really in a government position, they can be notoriously difficult to deal with. Some government agencies just don't support events straight out the gate. They don't want your event there, regardless of how much benefit it can bring to the local community, whether that's financially, economically, financially, socially, and even politically as well. When you have a vibrant culture and you have a vibrant town or a vibrant city and you have all these events going on, more people are more likely to visit your city. However, and that's a big thing that people push for. You know, they want a vibrant city a lot of the times. But unfortunately, when it comes to local councils, they take in the minority opinion. So noise complaints, people who live right next to the event site that don't want to have people walking in front. They don't like the noise. They don't like having a lot of people around. I've worked on events and projects where it's been like pulling teeth out because governments, especially local governments, are very against events as a general thing. Like, not all the times, but generally they are very difficult to deal with. And not only that, they also have very high standards in a lot of the cases. So if you work in a Western world, whether it's US, UK, Australia, sort of Western Europe, we tend to have to follow a lot of regulations in regards to other things like environmental waste management plans, traffic management plans, safety management plans, crowd management plans. It becomes a massive undertaking then. I mean, the events are a massive undertaking, but there's a lot of red tape you need to get to before your event's approved. And it goes through what we call a SAG, which is a safety advisory group. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here, but I do understand where he's coming from in this particular what he's saying about, you know, the amount of dealings we've had and how difficult it can be, because yes, it absolutely can be very difficult to get past the red tape, get past specific council members on a particular council board or a particular advisory board who, quite frankly, just don't want to deal with it.
So we were approached in September of last year to bring Fyre to the Riviera Maya region of Mexico. We started working with the Mexican officials almost immediately. And in December of last year, we were issued a permit, and the Mexican authorities issued a directive to all their different departments to make Fyre Festival happen in the municipality of Isla Mujeres. We obviously have this permit, we have this documentation. So with that, we partnered with, so go ahead.
Just real quick question. How many people are you planning for?
1,800 people.
And how many tickets have you sold?
We've sold just over 500.
Okay, so you're planning for 1,800. You've sold 500. Go ahead. So
we were pitched to come to Mexico. We met with the local authorities. The government there asked us to do it in the municipality of Isla Mujeres. They thought, one, it was a good fit for the vision of Fyre Festival, but they also clearly wanted tourism, dollars, attention going to that area. So they issued us a directive to their government. They issued us a permit. And we partnered with private venues and hotels on Isla Mujeres. We went and announced that early this year. And 4 days after we announced Fyre being in Isla Mujeres, a local municipality tourism person who we didn't know existed came out and gave all these comments saying they've never heard of Fyre. Fyre's never spoken with tourism. What is Fyre Festival? So we are sitting here just not knowing what to do. We have, multiple partners, dozens of professionals, whether it's my partners or our third-party companies, all who had been working full-time to make Fyre happen. And all of a sudden, this guy named Edgar is like, Fyre's never spoken to tourism in any capacity. So my first response was, let's just release the permits that we have from tourism to show that, we have, in fact, been in touch with tourism. And the feedback was that hey guys, you don't understand Mexico. You can't just release government documents. We're going to get killed. So I said, okay. And we kind of sat back and didn't do it.
They said killed?
They said killed. And it gets crazy. We'll get into this. They said killed. And there's
that's a little different than an NDA, Billy.
There's history.
That's a do not die.
Do not die policy. So I'm like, fuck. I love these partners. They're busting their ass. And they're like, don't release this documentation. Our lives will be in danger. So we said, okay. I released kind of this pathetic Instagram video where I'm like, guys, I have venues, I have hotels. I promise they know about us, but can't really say more.
Everyone's thinking, what everyone's thinking in their head, right?
That I'm full of shit, right? That doesn't exist. So
even if you're just a person, you've never run an event before and it's your first event, people would still be like, oh, okay, well, iffy. When you're Billy Mc Farland, you can't come back from that. You're such on a knife edge. Look, I don't know about the whole I'm going to kill you thing, or we're going to kill people over you releasing federale documents. I'm not 100% sure. I think that might be a bit of a stretch of the truth. Maybe it is true. I don't know. I've never worked a festival in Mexico. But at the same time, it could possibly be true. I don't know. But I'm a little bit skeptical on that claim. That might be a claim just to win bonus points or to win favor or sympathy. At the end of the day, this guy's a marketer, so you kind of have to take a few things with a pinch of salt. I don't really take that as a thing. I've never heard of anyone being threatened other than maybe like 30 years ago when the Stones played the festival and they brought in the bloody bikers and Hell's Angels to be the security and they were beating the crap out of people. You can watch that video as well. I've got a video on that as well. But this sounds a bit iffy.
So I get it, right? So it's like, I'm here like, hey guys, I promise I have this, but I can't really show you that I have permits. So I do this video. And the day I do that video, the government of Playa del Carmen, which is a different municipality in the same Riviera Maya region of Mexico, reached out. And they're basically like, we know what Isla Mujeres is saying is BS. We would love to have you guys in Playa. They were going through a rebrand. So
do they know who you are? Because one thing I wondered when I saw these releases, I was like, maybe they just found out like the Fyre Fest and they just didn't want to be associated. But it sounds like they knew who you. Did they know? They
saw the video from my personal Instagram. Yes, they know what Fyre is, and we've had
got it.
Dozens of hours of meetings with them right before we went live. Right. So they reached out to us saying, we see what's happening in Isla Mujeres. We see the media attention they're getting. We know their statements are BS. We want you guys in Playa. We are in the process of renaming the municipality from Solidaridad to Playa del Carmen, which is basically like the area of which Playa del Carmen, the city, is in. And we used to be the heart of the Riviera Maya. We used to be the home of entertainment and culture, and now we've lost to Tulum and Cancun, and we're basically like the little brother of Tulum and Cancun. So Fyre is perfect. If you guys come to Playa del Carmen, we launch a rebrand, and you guys give us international attention. So this is literally the night I posted this Instagram video. So we quickly start working with them, and the government of Playa del Carmen puts together basically a package that we couldn't refuse. They gave us 2 beach clubs. They gave us a water park. They gave us a hospitality company. They gave us introductions to villas, to hotels. We bought out one of the nicest hotels in the area, and they made it all happen. They quickly gave us permits. We have signed permits from the Secretary General, the Secretary of Tourism, Secretary of Environment, like you name it, right? Like they went hard. And meanwhile, I think the funniest thing through all this is like we're filming a documentary. And they're totally and they're totally aware of it, right? So like all these meetings are filmed. It's not like it's like happening in some back room. So it's like everything is being recorded and documented, and so it's like you just like literally can't make this shit up.
Wait.
Okay. Yeah, before he gets into it, I'm going to get into it because that changes everything. If he releases this documentary, right, this will prove without a shadow of a doubt that he's not full of shit. I think regardless of them selling the brand, that documentary should be released because it will mean so much more for his personal brand that he actually might be able to start other companies and festivals beyond Fyre. Not that I want him to, but he could.
I heard about this documentary. Are we talking Netflix?
I don't know. I don't know where it's going to end
Little Brother
up,
Hulu? I guess it depends how all this goes for you, huh?
But the ending is still unknown, so I'm not sure where that lands.
Yeah. Well, one question. Okay. Just on the documentary for a second. Is it true that someone bought out a Prometheus package with the decision that if I have to be included in the documentary? That's like the $1 million package. The only way I get the $1 million package is if I get included in the documentary. Is that true? That's what I heard.
We sold 2 Prometheus passes. One Prometheus pass that was part of it. However, that person asked for a refund like 3 or 4 months ago because they bought it during like the pre-sale. So we refunded them and canceled them. So there's one current outstanding Prometheus pass, and that person or group who bought that did not specify the need to be in the documentary. But the first buyer did ask for that. But that buyer
gotta cut that guy. You gotta cut that guy. Cut him. Cut him.
Yeah.
Wow. Refunded like that. No, that's insane. I mean, I think $1 million for any like festival is just not even for yours. I'm not even saying for yours. I think it's just such an insane price.
Absolutely. I mean, it depends though. It depends. Like if you have that sort of money and you are literally the son or daughter of a billionaire or you are a tech startup, not just for one person, like it would be for more than one person. Don't get me wrong, that is an insane amount of money to spend on this sort of experience, but if you are spending it and it's like a mansion for 12 people and you have all your food paid for, all your alcohol paid for, then you get like this luxury experience. I remember seeing that you get like a yacht cruise as well, and you get a whole bunch of other things attached to it. I wouldn't say that it's worth it, but I can see the appeal. That is an insane amount of money, and why you would want to spend that is beyond me. But individuals, people from old money whose dad's a billionaire, or maybe they're a tech startup, you take the company board and you can write it off as a tax write-off for a weekend, as team building, that could potentially be worth it for those types of people. But if you're like me, you're an ordinary person who doesn't have that sort of income, then yes, it is a complete waste of money. I could buy at least 4 houses with that. Or, obviously they'd be depending on how good the houses are, but and where they are. But you can spend three houses with $1 million or 2 houses with $1 million. That's insane.
Okay, so we're back to Playa. Okay,
Yeah,
so we're off
so we're in
documentary.
Playa.
So, yes, what happens?
They're pitching us hard. They literally give us everything. We pay for permits. We pay for the hotels. We pay for the beach clubs. They ask us to do a press conference. And here's where it gets, back to the crazy situation. The last festival in Playa del Carmen was a festival called BPM. And at some point in this festival, the government security basically gave way to the cartel. The cartel came in and killed the festival organizers on stage at the festival. And that was the last time the festival was in Playa del Carmen. Obviously.
So just to fact check what he just said, he's only maybe 25% right. There was a shooting, lone gunman went to the front of the entrance and shot a whole bunch of people. He shot 17 people, injured 17, killed 5, 3 of those for security, and 2 of them were other people. And they put out a sign saying that they hated the Canadian co-founder. They didn't like him for some reason, and basically they gunned for him, and the cartel took responsibility for the shooting. And it was obviously, as I said before, one lone gunman. And so just to get a bit of a fact check there, they didn't shoot the organizer on stage at a festival. It wasn't some sort of elaborate, Joker-like execution where some guy dressed as the Joker pulls the festival owner on stage and shoots him in front of everyone. It wasn't anything as dramatic as that. Obviously still a tragedy and obviously a terrible incident. But it's definitely not like he's putting it out as, they took the owner on stage and shot him. So that's a little bit different.
So our first response when they called, and the first response of our partners was, guys, what about BPM? And they assured us.
That's their Fyre Festival.
That's their Fyre Festival.
Yeah,
and
dude.
They're assuring us that, guys, everything is fixed. We have a new administration. And they went as far to say that in order to prove to you guys that this will be safe, let's do a press conference and let's have our Secretary of Security be at the press conference with you guys. And he can sit there and assure the public that, yes, you guys have permits, whatever, who cares? But more importantly, he's going to have his guys with machine guns in the background, which we have all the videos and pictures of. And he will assure the public that the Secretary of Security is protecting Fyre Festival. So we did that.
That press conference exists.
That press conference exists. Yeah.
Okay, got it. So you guys get assured. I'm not feeling too assured right now, actually. As a holder of the Fyre Festival pass, I'm a little, Mm-hmm. That's a scary thing. So you got, but now you've done all this stuff, or at least kind of it's record. I haven't seen it, but it's recorded somewhere. Then all of a sudden it drops out. Everything drops out beneath you again. What happened?
So we do the press conference. The press conference as well. The day after the press conference, the mayor, the Secretary of Security, and the official government channel for Playa del Carmen, which is Gobe Playa del Carmen on Instagram, they post without us asking on their Instagram, celebrating that they're bringing Fyre Festival to the region and how it's their job to support local business and tourism. So they post this on a Friday night. Everything is great. On Sunday of that week, I start seeing local newspaper articles where, and this was not picked up by the U.S. press, where the local government of Playa del Carmen was saying they've never heard of Fyre Festival. Meanwhile, we're live on their Instagram page. They just did a press conference with us. We have all these permits. They charge us for these permits. So I do a call with the senior government officials, and they're like, oh no, like, we would never say such a thing. We're fully supportive. And they send me all these text messages saying, we never said that. We love Fyre. Like, we love you guys. And now this is late Sunday night. Fast forward a few days, we're getting ready to announce our first part of the lineup. And at 10 p.m. on a Wednesday night, they post on the same channel where they already have a Instagram post celebrating Fyre Festival. They do a new post saying, we have never heard of an event, quote, called Fyre Festival 2. Meanwhile, the first post is still live. So, 30 minutes later, they go and delete the original post. But
wait, why? Okay, here's my question.
Just a few things that I'm a little bit skeptical here about, where I think he's elaborating the truth, is that when he was asked about the lineup in a previous interview, he said,
You say we might have. Are any of these for sure haves? Are they booked?
So I think what makes Fyre so cool is that we are selling the experience of Fyre. I want to be one of the first festivals that can sell out with no artists.
But you do have them booked.
We're announcing the artists over the next few months, so I'm not in charge of booking the talent.
Will these be A-list names that are involved?
I really hope so, and I expect so from our conversations.
I think he's pushing the envelope of the truth here, because Billy Mc Farland had already said in a previous interview, when he was specifically asked about who was playing, he couldn't give any answers. And the way he answered it was very, oh yeah, I'm not charged booking. It's going to be great artists. It's kind of like how Trump responds to most of his questions. I'm not going to get political in this video, but it's kind of like, it's very wishy-washy, misdirect, smoke screeny.
Question. Whenever you see the unexplainable, usually there's a behind-the-scenes story. So you have these two government officials inexplicably dropping out. What is explaining that?
There was no heads up to us at all.
Wait, what?
And all that the communication basically ended when they made their statement on that late Wednesday night.
Do you think they worried that maybe y'all didn't have enough together? Or were they worried oh, this could blow back on us? What are they worried about? Because it seems like the reason you would do it is tourism. The reason you wouldn't do it is maybe you think, okay, you'd think, oh, they don't have the lineup or whatever. Because I've seen these interviews where people are asking you, hey, what's the lineup? What's the lineup? And there's kind of some hesitancy there to kind of give specifics. And with the last Fyre, that
exactly what I literally just said. So he's on it. He's on it.
People's worry is okay, you've got a production company this time, but are the right pieces in place to make this a good experience for people like myself and all the journalists who are going to be going, the 500 journalists who are going to this event? 500
journalists. So out of a third of your ticket sales are, 500. Was that a third? No, it's more than a third. I use a calculator when I do my maths. So with that, you've got 500 out of 1,800 are all press and journalists and free passes. I mean, that is a lot. That is an incredible amount of free tickets to give away. Granted, it is the first event. When I used to promote events, my first event, I gave away lots of tickets, lots and lots of tickets. But with those people giving away those tickets, those people then encouraged their friends to buy tickets. So it was kind of like I would give away a free ticket, I'd get a paid ticket back. With journalists, it's just about the exposure and the marketing and growing the brand. I guess from a marketing perspective, it works. From a budget perspective, how are you making that back? And that what the $1 million tickets are for, is to make money back, because that's the only way you could make money back, is people being stupid enough to pay for $1 million packages. And Coffeezilla absolutely nailed it on the head. You've already, I literally just spoke about it, so I won't make the same point, but lineups are a bit sketchy. I should also point out that, we are, in terms of timelines, this is all happening between 4 to 6 weeks of the festival actually supposedly taking place. There's no lineup released. There's no information other than basic information about what your package includes. There's no specifics. Even in the timeframes of most major festivals and experiences, you at least have some information about what is happening by this stage. You've got lineups, you've got all these, whatever side parties that you've got ready to go ahead. Themed parties, that if you've got themed events or you've got activations and things like that, that's all already announced by this stage. 6 months ahead is okay. We don't need to know that far ahead. But within a month, people should already be releasing that information to sell those last remaining tickets. And they haven't done any of that.
Right?
Yes.
So can you maybe explain that? Is there... especially with recent events. Has the lineup dropped off? Do you need to build it back up? Like, where are we at?
Okay, so before we get to the lineup, and happy to share everything. So before we get to the lineup, there was never the last conversation with the government was, oh, we never said anything negative to the press. We're fully supportive of Fyre, and we have all the proof and evidence of this. What I was told after the fact and was sent pictures is that the local tabloids were attacking the mayor and basically saying, oh, she's a scammer. You know, she's part of this scam company. Like, we always knew she was a scammer. And I think in their minds, the best way to handle the assault of like their local tabloids, instead of a measured response, was just to say, oh, we've never heard of Fyre. Like what's Fyre Festival? And it was just like so absurd. And at that point, we started going back, and the morning after 5 promoters were killed at the BPM festival on the stage, the Mexican...
Again, they weren't killed on the stage. They weren't promoters that were killed on the stage. It was 3 security guards and 2 other civilians, and 17 other people were wounded at a nightclub outside the nightclub. So just a fact check there that he's already lying about certain details about that. They weren't killed on stage, and they weren't promoters that were killed on stage.
The government's response was that, oh, we have banned BPM from Mexico. It wasn't like, oh shit, maybe we made a mistake and let people get killed. Like, pretty serious. It was like, oh, we just banned the festival. So like, it seems like in the case of trauma and chaos, when they don't really know what to say, they just like take full denial. And that's where it doesn't make sense, because we, have dozens of hours of meetings on camera. We have hundreds, if not thousands, of emails. We have public Instagram posts. We have signed permits. Like, we paid the government, where they're clearly billing Fyre Festival too for the permits. So
why not release those? Because one thing is you've released some of the permits. I think I saw one where it's like a 250 person limit, like beach club for like listening. And I saw a bunch of articles like basically saying, oh, they're not even going to be able to DJ this place. It's just for listening to like pre-recorded music. Like, this isn't even a real permit. Da 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 da. Why not release those recordings of the government officials? Da da da. And why release what you did release? Like, basically, if you want to be transparent, why not just release everything?
Sure. So the first set of documents, we were still, trying to mend their relationship. And if you like saw the tone in that Instagram post, it was not accusatory towards Playa del Carmen. We were saying, we've been a great partner. We've done everything that was asked of us. We paid for the hotels. We paid for the venues. We paid for the permits. We've been great. And that was an attempt to try to like say, like, guys, like, what's the issue here? And now all gloves are off. So I will be forwarding you some documents, some permits, some email chains.
I'll share whatever I'm forwarded, provided you don't specify, hey, this needs to be like redacted, whatever. I'll redact what I need to redact.
I'm going to forward you
to provide it.
I have this great email chain with ABC News from this morning. So they reported last night that they talked with the state tourism office, which is above the municipality, and the state tourism said they would need to be the ones to approve this, and they've never heard of Fyre 2. So I forwarded to them 39 emails with state tourism, a permit from state tourism, and they said, oh, we'll update our story. And now they're refusing to update their story. So I'm going to forward you all those emails with state tourism. I'll forward you those permits. And yeah, it's just like, you just can't make this up. And ultimately we pay for the venues. We have the venues, and we have talent. Like, the event could go on, but how do we know people aren't going to get hurt? So it just does not make any sense to continue with Playa del Carmen.
And this shouldn't be a complete revelation to anyone, but a lot of major news services out there, doesn't matter if they're on the left or the right, are going to have biases. And when you have a story that conflicts the one that they've just reported and they have to backtrack, a lot of news outlets, unless it's going to be beneficial to them, won't do that. So when you get bad press for a festival or for an event or for any brand, it's very difficult to walk that back, even if it's completely false. And tabloids, in regards to his thing about the politicians and the tabloids, that's completely believable. I'm not surprised, to be honest, if it is true. I mean, obviously, as I said, I've already pointed out some things that are completely factually wrong that he's said, where he's pointing to examples, but it is not unimaginable that if a mayor of a local council or a local city is just getting bombarded by news outlets and wants to stay in power, especially when they're getting accused of being corrupt, and they say, look, we're just going to wipe our hands clean of this. That's, to be honest, totally believable. I can see that happening.
So at this point, I've heard talks of postponement and of refunds simultaneously. What?
Oh, he skipped over the
is
lineup.
that? Is it postponed, or am I getting not me, but my free tickets? But what is actually happening? Is this still happening, or it seems, or are people getting refunds, or both?
So both. One, Fyre Festival 2 is still happening. The date has not been set. We have an offer, locally in the New York City area to do it on the same dates. And then we've also have a couple of different Caribbean island countries that the team is doing site visits with over the next couple of weeks. So the location would determine the dates, and that would obviously determine if it's postponed. If we're picking a new Caribbean country, if it's a Belize, a Honduras, a Turks and Caicos, something like that, we would certainly postpone the event to allow us to build it out. If it's something more local, then we would try to keep the same dates. In the meantime, ticket holders are being refunded. So yeah, we are certainly refunding people and hoping they will, rebuy once Fyre Festival 2 is announced.
Here's my question, because one thing that I wanted to understand in all of this. So I had somebody come to me, and he says, basically, he says he was directly involved in the organization of Fyre Fest 2. I'm sharing this because I believe the public needs to know what's going behind the scenes. Basically, he says there was a split between the production company and you, and Lost Nights is no longer associated with Fyre Fest. Is that true?
That's not true. So we have no issues with Lost Nights. There's been no formal split with the production company. I think the location will determine who is producing the event. So obviously Mexico is their backyard, and we of course would love to work with them wherever we go. I think the final location there will determine that. But we're in hourly communication. There's been no formal split of the companies.
Okay, but hey, I'm familiar with legalese. I know no formal split. There's some jujitsu that can happen in there.
No formal splits. even Coffeezilla is like pointing that out. He's like, oh hey, hey.
Formal split. There's been some fights though. Fair to say.
Yeah.
We're on the same team, so I think it's fair to say.
Yeah.
They say the same thing. So we're like,
there's some shit going down.
The drama is not that. The drama is Mexico. Not Mexico. The drama is Playa del Carmen. It's like this is not an attack on Mexico. This is a full attack now, I guess, at this point on Playa del Carmen.
Okay, I'm gonna read this guy who's given me every reason to believe he's with Lost Nights. He says Billy's gone rogue. He's posting unapproved stories on the festival's IG. We had a pre-approval process, publicly arguing with the government, pushing merch, and teasing updates that aren't real. Internally, the project's done, is what he says. Is he lying?
Yeah. Who is this?
Oh, that's the tough thing. All I can tell you is he shared behind-the-scenes documents that you wouldn't have unless you worked on the project. He's definitely involved in the project. He also says, is there... Because I asked, what are some interesting questions to ask you? Because I knew I was interviewing you. Is there still an event team behind Fyre Festival 2? If so, who exactly is involved? Is Lost Nights one of those people involved? For sure.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Very straight-faced then, very...
I guess the question is...
pissed off.
Because I know there was a moment in Fyre Fest 1 where what was real sort of faced some logistical challenges, and then some lies were told to make it keep happening. You know what I'm saying? And I just want to make sure that's not happening here. Mm-hmm. Things have been crashing, sort of more or less crashing, and I understand that some of it may be outside of your control. But remaining honest about who still is involved, how viable this thing still is, seems like the key question of this whole process. So I'm here to hear you out on all the stuff, this happened, this is unfair, this happened with Playa del Carmen, it was kind of ridiculous. But I want a realistic view, no lies, about where are we now with Fyre Festival 2? An unvarnished look at that. Can you answer that?
Yes, this is the biggest difference and lesson learned from last time is that I don't know, and we're in no rush. We're not going to announce a new location. We're not going to announce new dates until everything is sorted and everything is ready to go. So we're properly vetting all options. And the truth today is I don't know what's going to happen with Fyre 2. I don't know if it's going to be this summer. I don't know if it's going to be next winter. I'm not sure where it's going to be, but we will look into and continue to vet and do due diligence on every single possible option for us. And tickets won't be sold until these questions are ready to be answered. So,
bearing in mind this interview was probably recorded before, well, it was recorded before they cancelled it, and it only was very recently. So already he's kind of lying a little bit here because he's already thinking about selling it. Like, there's no way that you think about this particular opinion where you go, oh yeah, we have all the time in the world. We can do it whenever we want. I'm not too worried about that. And then a week later, and I imagine it is because of the time frames of when this video is released to the statements that the Fyre Festival has made and that Billy has made about selling company and cancelling Fyre Festival 2.0. You don't go from having your passion project and your life ambition to hold this event to suddenly snapping going, I'm going to sell and I'm going to get rid of my whole brand and all of my dreams and put it all away. So already he's kind of lying through his teeth, not lying through his teeth. He's playing the press game, I should say, where he's saying, yeah, it's going to go ahead. It's going to go ahead. We don't know when it's going to be, to we're cancelling and I'm selling the IP. As I said before at the start of this video, you kind of have to take everything this guy says with a grain of salt and really think about whether what he's saying is actually true.
So I'm not in a rush to try to salvage this for next week or next month. We're going to take our time and pick the best option for everybody.
Next minute, you go and try and sell the
company. I think the refund approach and then later announcing is the right move. Can you share anything about the lineup? I'm sure it's gotten a little dicey now.
Back to the lineup. Good.
Date
I wanted to hear about
been thrown up in the air, but can you share any for sures?
Yeah, the biggest thing for me and what I wanted to live by with the team is I don't want to throw any artists under the bus right now. I think another artist went on Good Morning America today saying she's booked for Fyre. I'm not going to give any names. I'll let artists come out if they want to. We had our 11 artists signed. We had another 14, agreed to with contracts issued, and we were planning to release those the day after the negative statement came out, obviously before it came out. And the decision was made that we don't want to put the artists in the line of fire. If they want to voluntarily say they're booked for Fyre, more than welcome. We'd love for you to do it, but I'm not going to be the one to prematurely release that. We will certainly work with, and we've been in communication with all of them. Once new dates and locations are confirmed, we'd love to keep the offer, and it's going to be up to them to stay in.
Okay, first of all, if you are a festival, you're booking your artists much more in advance than 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks. I'm sorry, but wow, to have that many, maybe you have one artist, okay, you have one artist that you haven't been able to lock down, the management's being painful, the booking agent's being annoying, the artist is a bit wishy-washy, whatever. That sometimes, very rarely will happen. What happens in most of the times, you book your artists as far out as you possibly can. If you know you've got a festival that's a year in, year out festival, say, you're a big festival or even a small festival like this. This is what I would consider a small festival, if that. This is quite a minor festival. 1,800 people is not a big event. The frustrating thing about this is that 4 to 6 weeks out from an event, your artist should already be booked. Festivals don't book artists 4 to 6 weeks out. This is done 9 months, 10 months, sometimes even a year in advance. Because artists, especially big artists, their touring roster is going to be booked out, especially in busy months when it starts to go from May, June, July, August. That's the summer months for the Northern Hemisphere. So that means that's festival season. That's when they're trying to juggle different bookings and things like that. And yeah, people don't book artists that close to an event. Even when I was promoting events back home, and I'm promoting an event with a much less capacity than this, it was 700 capacity for the venues that I was trying to book out. And, I was booking my guys out for 2 to 3 months in advance. And that's maybe me being too organized, or maybe that's just me doing what the majority of promoters do. We book artists months in advance. It's only very rarely that we ever book artists within a month of the event or within several weeks of the event. And I think it's incredibly arrogant to come into knowing that from your first experience of doing Fyre Fest 1 and going, oh, okay, well, we're going to book a festival without a lineup and we're going to just try and sell tickets based on the marketing, and then see your festival completely destroy itself, seen as a laughingstock of the event and festival industry, and then go for your round 2 going, yeah, we've got a lineup, it's got amazing artists, and you're buying the ticket, you're buying the ticket for the brand, not the artists. And I don't agree with that. And that's the reason why you didn't sell any tickets, or barely sold any tickets. You didn't sell out. Like 1,800 people to buy tickets. That's not a lot of people, especially when you're marketing to an entire country like the United States. You've got 300 plus million people to market to, and you're trying to go for the upper echelons of the scale and of the economic market. You not to give a lineup is incredibly. I just don't understand. It's just stupid. There's no other words for it. It's just a stupid way of doing it. And I completely don't even think that he had a lineup. I think he contacted a few DJs. That's really it. Like nothing got really sorted.
Let me ask you something else. So one thing that I've been thinking about is, how does Fyre Fest 2, like you're envisioning like this glorious Fyre Fest 2, which may have, I don't know, right? And if it does, it's sort of this like amazing story about, like a comeback. There's also a world where Fyre Fest 2 kind of just fizzles out. And there's also a world where Fyre Fest 2 is extremely mid.
Yeah.
I would think that the last option is the worst option. Almost like if you refund everyone and it just goes away, it's kind of like this like fun story. If it's just kind of...
Which is kind of what it is. It's been cancelled and they're selling the IP. So it's just a fun little story now, isn't it?
Like a kind of a barely delivered promise. Do you see that as a failure? Like, do you see like option 1 is the only option? Like you deliver like the best Fyre Fest or it's like canceled? Or do you see option 3 as like... Because I hope we're not on a collision course there as someone who might attend.
Yeah, so one, I believe in my ability to make the event different and fun when the event happens. However,
well, your track record's not doing too well yet, mate.
I don't think that's the most important part. I think the most important part is how we do it and doing it honestly. For example, right now, refunds have been given. We were not selling tickets or accepting new reservations until all these questions that you have are answered, which are all totally valid questions. So there's no rush. And there's no like urgent attempts to save a certain date. We're doing right by people, doing things the right way, and learning from mistakes here. And I'm confident that we can make it fun and we can make it interesting. For example, in New York last year, we rented an airstrip just outside of New York City. We did zero gravity flights and a concert on an airstrip for 100 of like the Fyre members in New York City. So it's like.
So I did a little bit of a fact check on this. He did send 75 people up in a plane in New York and Orange County. They busted them out there. They went up in a plane, and there's a certain maneuver when you in a plane where I think it's where you come down quick enough where you feel zero gravity and you descend really quickly, and it lasts 15 seconds before the plane has to pull up. Otherwise, it's going to crash into the ground. So. Yeah, he did do this experience with people, and then they bust them back to New York, and they went to a concert afterwards. So that is true. He did do this, but it wasn't very highly publicized because, not because I didn't know about it, but because, there was only one news article about it, which is, not great from a marketing and branding perspective if no one knows about it.
We can find ways where this festival is different from everybody else. I think that's what I specialize in. Where I failed has been to scale this from a couple of hundred people to a couple of thousand people. So we're going to look into all options, and maybe it's a smaller event, maybe it's the same size, maybe it's bigger. Once again, really depends on location and where it's being done.
So yeah, like in any business, scaling is a risk and it is problematic and it's hard to do. When we're talking about events, it's even harder because you're jumping from trying to bring in, around about 600-700 people. You want to start bringing in be more ambitious and bring in 1,400, and then it gets to 2,000. There's more costs involved. It's bigger, and you're expanding, especially when you're a festival where you have to bring a lot of the materials on site. You're building the event space, so you're building the stage, you're bringing in catering, you're bringing in toilets, you're bringing in all of that. It's not in a brick and mortar venue. Your costs exponentially rise. So there's a lot more costs and a lot more logistics involved, opposed to just hiring out of space. So, yeah, I completely agree that it is difficult to expand, but that's the business that you have chosen to be in. And I put those words carefully. You have chosen events. You haven't gone into a marketing space and marketed a product. You've marketed events, and you don't understand how difficult that is.
Okay, and finally, I just want to get some questions on this, because I just want to make sure I get, I just get it in the record. Like, this person, which fair, I'm not saying who it is. I just know they have insider info. They say sponsors, partners, production, booking, and logistics team have already stepped away. And you're telling me today that's false.
Yeah, that's not the case.
I mean, look at the face there. That face of Billy Mc Farland, and he knows that his team is abandoning him behind the scenes. Like, he's putting on this great marketing and PR face saying it's all well and good and it's all rainbows and sunshines, but you look at his face right there and you go, yeah, that's not happening. You know what? He looks like Thanos at the end of Avengers Endgame, and he just sits down and he's like, yep, nah, I'm done. I am so done. I am dead now. This is my life, and I've made my decisions. Good night and goodbye.
Okay. But are any of those people willing to stand up and say that we are still involved? Or do you think, no, they're not?
Let me answer that for you there, Coffeezilla. Absolutely not.
To stand up and say that.
I think the entire team is working on what the next steps are.
How big is the team?
It's a few dozen people across different companies. So internally, we're small. We're 7 or 8, internally at Fyre. And then there are different teams to different roles. I think we're all on the same path now, where let's not make any rash decisions. Let's vet all these locations, and we have different people doing different site visits.
No, you don't.
A team's going to one location tomorrow in the Caribbean.
No, they don't.
We met with the government of a different country in the Caribbean yesterday. So we're thoroughly vetting all these options, and different members of the different teams are going to different places, and we are in no rush. And I love to announce next week, but in reality, we want to take a few weeks, make sure everything is done properly, make sure that we're not going to experience a Playa del Carmen situation where a prime minister somewhere shakes our hand and gives us the permit, but then says he doesn't know about us when the New York Times starts calling. So we've got a lot to deal with, and there's no urgency in making a rush decision.
Okay, well, first of all, that entire statement was absolutely false and a whole bunch of bull. Because in less than a week or two later, since I imagine when this was filmed, because I don't know the exact date of when this was filmed, but this interview was filmed, but we do know the time scale, and there is no way that you go from that sort of mindset of, I want to build this brand, I want to take it to another place, I want to take it to another festival location, which, mind you, should be occurring a year out from when that date is. So even if he was planning a date well into the future, well into 2026, you don't have that mindset and then 2 weeks later go, I'm selling the IP. We're cancelling Fyre Festival 2.0. I'm selling the IP. And who wants to buy Fyre Festival? Who wants to buy my brand? Who wants to buy my IP? I think it's so disingenuous now that we're in the future and we know these facts as they are, that this entire point he's just made was just completely false. How many people do you know that have dreams? They want to be the greatest lawyer, or they're trying to build a brand, or they're a startup founder, or they're someone who's an artist, or even like they're building a music career, and then 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, they turn around and go, you know what, I'm giving up. It is classic lying behavior that you expect from someone who's a convicted fraudster.
Do you think there is a world where this becomes Fyre Fest 1 all over again?
It already
No,
has.
Fyre Festival 1, I think also this is like underreported. The crime of Fyre Festival 1 wasn't necessarily the attempt to do the music festival. If the music festival of Fyre Festival 1 was perfect, I still committed a crime and I still would have gone to jail for the same amount of time.
Lying to investors.
The lying to investors. And that was the true crime of Fyre 1. So
do you have investors on this project?
No, we don't.
How do you pay
No,
for everything?
no investors. How are people paying for this? I mean,
We're literally asking the same questions. Like, literally, I'll ask a question and then he'll pick it up, like, literally 2 seconds later. Me and Coffeezilla are on exactly the same line, the thought lines here. It's just like, okay, if you don't have any investors, where are they coming from? Where is the money coming from here? Let's find out.
is it the merch? Is it the, like, how are you living?
Surely they're not paying that much merch.
What are you living? What is the team living on?
Like, buying
if,
that much
if there
merch.
aren't investors.
So we're doing a documentary, which we're getting paid from. I do marketing work. I do speeches, appearances.
So he said before, though, that it's not for any particular streaming service. So who's paying for it? It must be like a producer, an external producer, a production house who are paying them, or they're just paying for it themselves. It seems really sketchy. Because, yeah, he said before, earlier in the video, that that it isn't signed to any particular streaming service. So if it was Netflix, Netflix would pay him to document this whole process. But he automatically said it was, to see wherever it goes or whatever. And it wasn't signed to any particular streaming service or provider. So unless it's an external producer paying him a little bit of money, it just sounds really sketchy.
So there's income. It's not great, but it's enough to scrape by and survive.
Are you implying you're not taking income currently from the Fyre project?
I do earn from Fyre, but it's merchandise, it's sponsorships, it's documentary deals. We've licensed the Fyre brand to other businesses that are building non-festival projects that I can't speak on, but all these kind of like owning the IP of Fyre is essentially one of the core businesses.
Gotcha. How does it feel? I just want to say lastly, I've never seen so much media about a project that, like, I looked today, I was like, who's talking about this? New York Times, ABC, all these people are reporting, and it's almost like they do want you to, they don't want you to fail, but in a way, like, the narrative is this guy who did Fyre 1, Fyre 2 is going to be the exact same. Do you feel like I don't know how to express this. Like, do you feel like people are trying to write that story for you already?
Of course. And I think I deserve a lot of it. But what is the worst part are the people in the entire team of Fyre 2, whether it's internally with me or externally, none of them were a part of Fyre 1. Right? These are like honest, good people.
How do you find these?
Yes. Exactly. How do you find these people who want to be associated and risk their careers and their reputation? Because personal reputation is everything in this world. And, if you say to, other people, it's like, what have you been doing for the last 6 months? Oh, I've been working on Fyre Festival. They're going to go like, what the fuck? Why would you be associated with this?
But they're giving me a chance, but they're giving Restitution a chance. They're giving the dream a chance, right? And it sucks to wake up every day and have literally the world news hoping these people fail. And they're trying to feed their families. They're trying to make their mark in some small way in the world. All right. So that's the hardest thing for me. And I just don't know how many years of like work it's going to take to have a level playing field. And I get it. I deserve it. Like, I'm not trying to avoid responsibility for that, but it is kind of wild. I feel like.
Yeah, I think it's because you took the same name, though. I think that's a lot of it. I think if you had done like some like random new thing, I think people would be
100%.
less, but you jump back in. Lastly, what's after this?
So yeah, if you start a brand and it completely flops, why would you start and try and continue that brand? It's ridiculous. You don't try and once it's like racing. If you blow out a tire, you don't continue the race without that tire. Or you replace it, you fix it, you do something new. You don't try and do the same thing twice, which has failed. And when it comes to brand and marketing, especially with events, you don't do a Fyre Festival because Fyre Festival already has such a negative brand connotation to it. People don't trust the brand. Like, it's not hard to go, yeah, we probably shouldn't go to that because the last time people went to that, I got a moldy cheese sandwich and there was nowhere to sleep and everything was utter chaos. Why would I pay for that experience? So if he started a new brand name, maybe he would have a less hard of a time to sell the festival, not just to people, but to local governments, to suppliers, to potential sponsors. It's a lot easier to sell something that isn't a complete dumpster fire.
Yes. Do you have any, do you want to do something else, like assuming this all, whatever happens.
I think what I'm one of the biggest lessons here is that we clearly, I clearly need help with events, right? And
No shit.
I need
Maybe
to
give up of it. Don't do events. Go to
maybe
Even Coffeezilla's like, don't do it. Maybe this is not your chosen career path. I reckon if he went and started his own marketing agency, he'd be a multi-millionaire without having $27 million or $24 million, whatever it was, in restitutions that he has to pay. He's not a convicted felon. If he went and started his own marketing agency and he started or worked in a marketing agency, he would be killing it right now. But no, he went into a world which he doesn't understand. And I'm not saying naivety is a crime, but being ignorant and just being plain stupid about it, is, especially when you defraud your investors.
give up on that, but I think the one thing that we do have is the brand awareness. Obviously, a lot negative is super high, right? So I do like the
that whole idea of any good exposure, any exposure is good exposure, does not work in the events industry. I kind of touched on this earlier, but like if you have a bad brand and your brand is in an event, people are not going to pay for a brand that they know is bad. A lot of people don't go to shitty experiences and shitty bars and shitty venues because, the brand is good. They go because it's cheap usually, because it is a bad experience. Fyre Festival is selling tickets at $1 million, but it's a shit product because it's got a bad label behind it. People aren't going to spend that sort of money and for that experience. There was one person that they had two people. One person dropped out and one person bought it for $1 million. So, there are stupid people out there who will buy these prices, but for the most part, people won't pay for bad experiences in most situations. And that's why other festivals who have proven themselves, your Glastonburys, your Tomorrowlands, your Ultra Music Festivals, have proven themselves why people should pay for those experiences through brand recognition.
The IP business of Fyre, and whether that's a fashion line, a consumer product, there is a wild experience being built by somebody else that I have like no role in using the Fyre name. So I think like the IP brand of Fyre is interesting, and maybe it's small trips, maybe it's like marketing a small hotel where we do a 20-person, experiential weekend. I think there's a lot like with the component and the thesis of Fyre that I'd like to build in the future. So taking time now to figure out like what the step is for Fyre 2 and what that looks like.
Hang on.
And we'll go from there.
See how excited he's already starting to get? He's already thinking about this. He's already thinking, we're ever seeing the future from when this interview was recorded, and not much in the future though. Like would have only happened maybe less than 3 weeks ago. We are in a less than 3 weeks to a month. He's already thinking about selling his IP. Look, he's already getting fired up. His reaction's like, oh, look, we could do this and this and this, and it's like, oh, now that we know that he's actually selling his IP, we know that. Everything else in this interview is absolute crap about trying to do Fyre 2.0. He's more interested in selling the IP and just getting the money off that.
Well, as someone with tickets, I hope this event actually and the hat. I hope this event actually happens. I'm a bit concerned about some of these emails I'm getting from insiders, but you're saying that's not true. I hope that news doesn't come out that it is true. Listen, Billy, you're in. This is a crazy thing you're trying to pull off. And if you're able to,
he's trying to be nice.
People will celebrate you for it. But if it goes the same way, you're going to get rightfully deserved a lot of hate. So,
understand.
Good luck. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
So that's the end of Coffeezilla's video. Just some last thoughts. This is obviously a developing story still. It's probably at the end of the story, actually. We might see Fyre get sold to someone else. We know now that Fyre is up for sale as an IP. The festival has been cancelled indefinitely and will not be proceeding. This video, though, was only released a day ago. So you can see, like, this stuff is happening very quickly, and I'm also kind of annoyed because I did a whole video about how Fyre Festival was not going to happen, and it didn't end up happening. So, some of the things that Billy mentioned about Mexico and the specifically the local government not playing ball or going behind his back and putting out stories that they shouldn't have and saying it wasn't going ahead or they haven't heard of it when clearly they have. I can't attest to that. You know, it could have happened, but it doesn't matter. You know, the brand is a dumpster fire. You know, I don't think he should have even tried to do another Fyre Festival. He should have tried a completely new festival brand, even though it was him. Tried a new festival brand and perhaps not be the face of the brand and hire another company to be the face of the brand and him be the marketing director or the director of, experience or whatever else. You know, he can still play a role without being directly the PR face and the front of the company. And I think in part that's a large reason why this didn't come about. He doesn't have the production experience to really put this event on like he was for the first one, naivety, arrogance, and ignorance. And, if you have talented production teams and behind the scenes already pulling out, it was pretty obvious they were pulling out. You could tell, not to say like I'm a mind reader, but you can kind of tell by his reaction, his short answers where he's like, no, they're not pulling out. They're with us. We're fine. And it's like, So Coffeezilla is known for sort of going hard and doing really, detailed journalism and going hard at people who have committed frauds and done some nasty stuff that they're not really held accountable for, like Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan Tate, the Jake and Logan Pauls, and obviously more recently, the whole Tour Girl scandal and the meme coin around that. I was surprised though. He didn't really, he was pretty level-headed in this one. And from level-headed, I mean, he didn't ask too many hard questions. I thought the questions were relatively medium to light in terms of their severity. Like, I think in a way I could kind of tell that I don't know him personally. I haven't asked him what he thinks in this, but I do think there was a few times I could tell where he knew that he was kind of getting BS to. Because I could tell that he was being BS to. Now, I mean, it's easy to know with hindsight now, knowing that the IP is up for sale. But at the same time, I also look at it and go, I just don't trust what you're saying right now because that doesn't track with me. With my experience in the industry, I don't think that doesn't make sense. And if, people are emailing saying they're not part of a team anymore, if it's all crumbling around you and you've got local governments crumbling around you, you have no investors, and you've got a reputation for being a fraudster, yeah, I'm going to pretty much question everything that comes out of your mouth. And as we know now, Fyre isn't going ahead. So things for the future to learn from. Number 1, don't try a festival that's already failed once. Number 2, if you know you're not good at running events, perhaps do another industry. Join another industry. If you're a marketing professional and your events suck and they don't launch and they bomb as badly as Fyre, perhaps you're in the wrong industry. And because you can always create experiences elsewhere. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this reaction. My name is Bryn. I'm an industry professional. I've worked in the events industry for 15 years across multiple roles. And of course, if you have any questions, put them in the comments. And if you let me know what you think. Do you think that, Fyre ever had a chance of reviving itself? Do you think that Fyre should continue to be a brand? And what do you think? Do you think Billy Mc Farland is ever going to get out of this rut that he's in, owing that, the $20+ million that he owes in restitution, and whether he should even have the right to run in a festival, and run an event again? Hey, if you enjoyed this video, come watch this one. Maybe you'll like this one as well, and it might be your thing. And if you like both of these videos and you've watched a couple by now, maybe you should consider subscribing a little just over here in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Anyways, my name is Bryn. I'm an event professional working here for 15 years, and I'm starting this journey on YouTube. So join it with me. Like, subscribe, and I will see you very soon. Bye.